Alrighty, time for second monitor slop. Walpurgis is inevitably coming up. It'll either be next week or the week after that, depending on the size of Project Moon's greed after dropping such a juicy bait banner. Who knows, they could be merciful and only drop Railway 2 Bokgak, or they could be evil and drop Walpurgis first. One of those would 100% be more cruel than the other. Regardless, most of you are probably wondering what kind of bullshits we could get for Walpurgis this time around. Let's start with the simple stuff. Walpurgis is an event that offers limited but stronger IDs and egos that pull from a longer time in the past or future compared to the extraction function normally available to Mephistopheles. This allows Project Moon to bullshit their way into grabbing iconic characters and ego gears from previous entries, Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina. They almost always release 2 IDs and an ego each time, as well as a mini event of sorts to have fun with the new stuff and showcase their power. The exception has been the first few, but it has since consistently arrived at this release pattern. That said, they also alternate between the two, at least since the second one onwards. The first was a weird combined affair, and then from then on it has been Lobotomy Corp followed by Ruina, back to Lob Corp and onwards. With that pattern in mind, we can get to the purpose of this video, giving a generous estimate to what will be offered in this upcoming Walpurgis. This video is either going to age like fine wine or like milk. Heck, it may only have a shelf life of a single day. Then you can come back, point and laugh at me as I increment the mistakes counter in my Discord server by another 1, increasing the severity of my end-of-year punishment and atonement. Regardless, let's get started then, shall we? First off, due to the aforementioned pattern of releases, we know that this next one is supposed to be Library of Ruina based. The previous Library of Ruina Walpurgis is what got this channel off of the ground in the first place, in the form of a video fueled by pure spite, a bit on Hanafuda Ishmael involving an actual deck of playing cards. Now, Library goes upwards for the most part in terms of power received as the game progresses, splitting the various encounters up into different classifications assigned by the Hana Association, starting from Canard and going up to Impuritus. On the scale of stuff we've seen thus far in Limbus Company, we've had stuff from Canard, Urban Myth, Urban Legend, Urban Plague, Urban Nightmare, and even Starve the City. So to speak, this is literally every category minus Impuritus. Now, typically speaking, the stuff we've gotten from Ruina Walpurgis tends to be IDs from a reception or two, and egos from the library's canon set of abnormalities. The stuff that was supposed to be located at Lobotomy Corporation's headquarters. Now, these egos tend to also be shared along with Lobotomy Corporation ones too, if only due to a fair bit of overlap between the two. Abnormalities that have been featured in both Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina tend to be a lot more well known, and thus have a larger chance of getting the ego slots on a Walpurgis banner. This leaves us with quite a lot to work with in that regard, especially seeing as outside of the magical girl Walpurgis, the egos don't always match the Saphira that would have been in charge of it. Speaking of, the last piece of the puzzle generally offered to us, the Sephira. These are department heads and patron librarians that hold over from both Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina, being offered a rather nice conclusion with Library's events. Each Walpurgis after the first has starred at least one of them each time. As we've had 7 so far, the upcoming 9th Walpurgis features the 8th one, that being Bina. This opens up a stupid amount of possibilities, if only because of Bina, if they wanted to strictly theme the event after her, but seeing as the previous event was Chessed's and it featured gear from Malkuth and Netzach's floor, as well as an abnormality from Yesud's floor for an ego, yeah, the trend does not really carry at this point. The exception to this was 100% the Magical Girls and Tifereth, which would have otherwise been in charge of them. So what have we got to work with then? Laying it all out, we know it is going to be Ruina based inevitably. We know that Bina is the patron librarian for this event. It is likely going to be 2 IDs and an ego, and in pulling from the degrees of power that we have access to in Limbus Company, could arguably be of Urban Nightmare or higher classification, but likely lower than Impuritus. As for expanding on that last point, I won't sugarcoat it. The bus team is 100% low Starve the City level. They could take on a vast majority of the first set of receptions that classification has to offer at this point, in overcoming Nurse Fathers, members of the Fingers, and plenty of other high-level adversaries. It can easily be said that the bus team can blow out any of the first set of receptions in a reasonable manner. This first row consists of FUM Soldatos, Capos, and an old Sotto Capo, the Lu Association Fixers of Section 2, the Church of Gears, which we have beaten up prior even, and the Cane Office. So let's talk about each of those, their key characters, and who would even be candidates for each real quick. It's also worth mentioning the general receptions offered at this stage, those being Donghuan Grade 1 Fixer and the Night Owls. The latter we've already gotten with the prior Walpurgis featuring Ruina. Anyhow, starting from the far left, we've got the FUM, split into 2 episodes. The FUM receptions feature the aforementioned finger. They're the most classic depiction of the FUM, featuring rifles and bayonet combat, while playing as the Sicilian Mafia in all but name. There's 4 named characters to pull from in this reception, those being Dennis, Boris, Catriel, and Kalo. Unfortunately, as we've just been through finger season, for a lack of a better way of putting it, choosing these fellas for the Walpurgis would be a cop-out. It would be cool to get some more FUM members and make an entire team around them, don't get me wrong. It's just that with finger fatigue likely setting in soon, this would be a rather shoddy choice, at least considering that our most recent banner as of writing has been the FUM Nurse Father and Apprentice. Perhaps they could ride off the hype of those two, but it'll be frankly salty feeling since all of this will be locked away and limited in post. When the first 2 FUM IDs come off of seasonal limitations and land in the dispenser, or having 4 of them go onto any limitation whatsoever will feel like ass. As much as I would want any of these 4 in Limbus company, it will be the cop-out answer if they go for it. That said, Dennis and Catriel are basically evolved soldatos packaged as capos. Boris is the might makes right fisticuff sort, which would be cool to see if we didn't get that so much with the middle already. And Kalo is a sotto capo, wherein we already have the 3-day disgraced fella in Valentina Rodya, which kinda already out-spectacles the fella by a long shot. Hop out they may be, there would have been a time where I'd have killed for this bunch to rock up. Moving along, Church of Gears is a no. This one is less about their place in the setting or capacity as sinners, and more so that they would be a poor financial decision by PM if they make their limited banner a bunch of bloody mooks that we killed 2 Walpurgis ago. It would also just be letting smoke into the game proper, which would be a kind of different sort of screaming. If IDs were still on the table, these fellas probably would have stood a slight chance. That said, within their reception is also the blue reverberation. We are not getting Argalia that easily. He is still a color, even if they insist he is one of the weaker ones. They are still heads and shoulders above grade 1 fixers, which, while we do stand a chance against, are still hellish to fight. Blue Section 2 would feel kind of bad to be getting, as we've gotten plenty of Blue fixers on standard banners thus far. In terms of characters, there's a full trio here if we really wanted. There's Lowell, Cecil, and May, all rather prominent members of the Lu Association. While not the most popular by far, they are pretty damn cool and very usable within one's Ruina clear. Sadly though, in terms of ID design, you'd be looking at 2 fellas with their fists and a cunt with his polearm. They would be an amazing burn upscale, especially if we've got Lowell's Raging Storm out of it. However, this would lock so much of Burn's best stuff behind Walpurgis that it's pretty much guaranteed that it's an internal joke at this point. There's also just not enough distinction compared to the rest of standard fare that we've been getting from the Lu to begin with. If we get any of these guys, it'll be a even bigger cop-out compared to the FUM at this point, which, while sad to say, is the reality of carryover from Ruina into Limbus, at least early on with various fixer associations. Now, Star of the City hasn't been giving us fantastic options thus far, but trust me, they'll start improving with the next one, sort of. We're looking at the Kane Office, a trio of weirdos that handle contracts. They are heavily nested in charge and made of Nemo, Vada, and Martina, a bunch of oddly high-powered notaries. If I had to pick between the 3, we would 100% be getting Nemo. Then it would be a toss-up between Bada and Martina. My gut would tell me Bada. Now, less a powerhouse reception and more a fun one. The Kane Office has some funny toys, within Ruina at least, and become staple to charge engines mostly through their cards rather than anything else. Nemo would be the standout if just because the fella shows up on the loading screen of Limbus and has his funny face laser. The other 2 are a bit more troublesome in regards to what makes them stand out. Bada has devastating thrash, just a hard-hitting uppercut, whereas Martina has uncanny strike, a combat page that messes with your stagger. Unfortunately, neither gimmick is particularly compelling, so while Nemo would be really funny to grab and make use of, the other 2 are lacking for their uniqueness within charge at least. Now for that one remaining general reception we've got lying around in this row, well, it's Donghuan the Grade 1 Fixer. Honestly, I'd welcome this cunt. He'd be a very funny addition since he's just that guy, realistically speaking. He comes to the library for a 1v1 final destination, and while he's rarely going to win it, he does offer a really good key page in doing so. He has been the face of memes in Ruina's Japanese community. to the point where he has numerous mods made of the cunt. I'll see if I can't link one below that gives him an entire mod with Kanto 9 polish for whatever reason. It's bloody insane stuff. If we get this guy, Mr. Donghuan in the Project Moon office is likely getting a raise. Otherwise, I'd have my doubts. Now, while low star of the city seems rather unlikely, we have the option to look upwards or downwards. Downwards into Urban Nightmare is kind of sad. There's some cool stuff there, but I'll cover them in a quick-fire manner this time around. Sweepers are a no. That'd be opening the doors to lore hell for Project Moon most likely. All sweepers are completely made of liquefied flesh too, so unless they're somehow willing to release a faction within the sweepers that get to keep their faces, then yeah, nah, not happening. The Shi Association runs under the same caveats of the Lu. We have 3 notable members in Tenma, Valentin, and Yujin. Everyone and their mother wants Yujin and their boundary of death. It's the one thing we haven't been allowed to have from the Shi specifically. Valentin and Tenma aren't too notable. Valentin can be used as a rather solid key page, but doesn't have a super fancy move like Yujin. Getting more Shi fixers, a popular association would be cool, but it would have to be that team leader style affair to then facilitate the rest of the Shi to suddenly work, much like how Shadow Vested Bladesinger does for the Blade lineage. It'd be a fan favorite pick for sure, but ultimately I wouldn't hold out the most hope for a Shi-based Walpurgis. They don't play a key enough role in the library's events, and are at the start of Urban Nightmare. 8 o'clock Circus would get a bunch of people rocking up to the Project Moon headquarters and blasting death threats. I will play 5 seconds of their music so you'll understand why. Emma and Noah is not enough to justify getting this pair through, I reckon. Puppets is a no because they have no named characters among them. They just wouldn't sell in that regard. Besides, we've already gotten their best offering through Albina Faust by Repressed Flesh. A severely down-powered version of it though. Index proselytes are also a no. We've already got one, we don't need more of the low-rank Index members realistically speaking. Smiling Faces have Wang, Jin, and me. They are just a no for balancing reasons. PM is unlikely to introduce smoke, and even if toned down to fragile, would still be broken as all hell. So yeah, nah, no Smiling Faces for us. Crying Children is a no. We have Philip Sinclair already. We don't need to give Philip even more to work with. Warp Cleanup Crew is also a no. We've got enough W Corp agents. Heck, W Corp already has quite a few strong members, and the fellas in this reception, Rose, Lesty, and Sen, aren't notable enough to make an impact or be particularly cool or make people want to open their wallets. So unfortunately, it's a no. So let's look upwards once again. The second row of Star of the City, what I would consider the limits of possibility for this Walpurgis, at least if they plan on selling a few more of these down the line in much bigger and flashier banners. Starting from the left once again, Index Proxies. The 3 featured here, Gloria, Hubert, and Esther, are all really cool. They are what I consider proper Index Proxies compared to the weirdos we have in Limbus at the moment. A Roland clone and his would-be apprentice. I'd honestly really want these if it weren't a finger season already. They would fill out the Index team with at least 2 more members, rounding it to 5. All 3 of them work off of their Blade unlock mechanics, and each has a rather cool, unique combat page regarding said unlock as well. That is to say, any other season I'd have loved to get these guys, but finger fatigue is setting in, and getting them at this point would be a tad unfortunate. They'd still sell, I reckon, since sinking and poise are both very popular keywords. They'd just not shine as brightly as the greatest LARPer of all time and his apprentice. Next is, the Red Mist. Now, I'd be liable to say this would be the pick if we were only to get a single ID. The Kali offered here isn't the one in her prime, but rather the one right after Lobotomy Corp had hired her, before all of her insane and crazy escapades. She may be the strongest, may have ego, may have all manner of bullshit capabilities, but we've got a fucking ego user this season already. What's another one at this point? Besides, she doesn't even have Shin and Mang. How could she possibly compete? Jokes aside, Red Mist is one of my crack picks for this Walpurgis, and would absolutely snap things in half if they decided, fuck it, you get to have your first color. The only sad thing about it would be she would inevitably be our weakest color, opposite of her bloody moniker as the strongest. This one is the big I fucking wish. We'll see if we do get her. It'd be pretty funny if we did. Then there's Lu Section 1. We have some ungodly fellas here, one that goes on to be one of the hardest bosses in your first Ruina playthrough. Section 1 offers Miris, Xiao, and Chun. Again, they're Lu fixers. Very cool and competent fellows, but nothing stupid unique at this particular junction. Much as I would want any of these free, Xiao would sell more in her ego form, and the other 2 aren't quite popular enough to really carry through a banner on their own. If we were to ever get Xiao as a Walpurgis, it'd probably be alongside one of the boss-style encounters in comparison, such as the Purple Tear, Yan, or Red Mist, really. Bit unfortunate, I suppose. Past there is Arcorp. I can confidently say, outside of one character, this is most likely a no. If they give us Nikolai and they act as an Arcorp team leader, sure. But unfortunately, they went ahead and gave Nikolai's big fancy move, Disposal, to Valencina, who just came out less than a week ago now. So unfortunately, Arcorp is likely on the back burner. If we get anything new from them, maybe it'd be ravens or rats, but rabbits, rhinos, reindeers, and whatever the fuck Nikolai is supposed to be are probably off the table. So what does that leave us remaining then? More general receptions? Yeah, more general receptions. We have the Leaflet Office to start us off. These fellas are premium smoke, so no. Just no mad workshop fellow with some of the very best smoke cards available. Once again, smoke just breaks the game wide open and floods the damage gates with an ungodly amount of extra percent damage. It is a hell no, we are not offering smoke. Mireille Insurance. This has just the one key character, that being Ruina. Outside of another general reception-based Walpurgis, she is probably a no as well. I do like using her. There's a fun single-point stab into Final Stroke build you can use for Discard Hell. But otherwise, she's not key enough of a character to really include right now, unfortunately. Oddly enough, there's two more we can address here. All of Star of the City's general receptions can be accessed from the second row onwards. This means Udjats. We don't have any named Udjats at all in Ruina, so this moves it down a lot in that fact alone. Coupled with being a general reception and already having an Udjat in-game, and yeah, nah, not enough to tick it over. Then there's Bayard, our offensive position holder. Much as Bayard is kinda cool and offers plenty of stuff when you get him, story is sheerly lacking and the fella is alone in his plight. My last gamble, at least in possibilities, would be the Hana. At least the Hana of Section 3, Mirine and Harold. These two would be pretty cool to get, but as I mentioned near the start of the video, they're unlikely due to being in Impuritus as it is. The Hana are cool, Trigrams are nice, Augury Kick is my beloved. Mirine is one of my favorite designs out of Ruina, but unfortunately no. If we got the Hana here, it would be on the back of Bina requiring them for her flaws. Speaking of Bina, there's no way in hell they're giving us an Arbiter, even if it is a degraded one. If they do, it'll be alongside the Red Mist and will indeed snap the internet in half and cause extreme damage to my wallet in the meantime. She would be coming home no matter what. The Bird Lady would be #1 priority if they made her into an ID. So no, not yet either. Now what about egos? There's always one ego slot, right? Well, there's a lot of them. While the most likely candidates are between the birds, I feel like they would want to release all three at once if they did so. A triple Ego Walpurgis would be about as much screaming, if not more, than the Arknights collab. The saving grace would be that you could get these later rather than them no longer existing. If that's what we get though, I'd eat a whole bird's eye chili and tank the spice in full. There's potentially over 200,000 Scoville on the line if they decide to go for it. Anyhow, to shortlist everything from the library that hasn't been thrown in as an ego or otherwise levied for Walpurgis. Ahem. From Malkuth, Hornets, Snow White's Apple. From Yasod, All-Round Helper. From Hod, Today's Shy Look, Letitia, and Dream of a Black Swan. From Netzarch, Fragment of the Universe, Child of the Galaxy, Porcubus, and the Silent Orchestra. From Tifereth, the Knight of Despair, King of Greed, Servant of Wrath, and Jester of Nihil. For Geberer, Little Red Riding Hooded Mercenary, Big and Will Be Bad Wolf, Mountain of Smiling Bodies, Nosferatu, and Nothing There. From Chesed, Scarecrow Searching for Wisdom, Warm-Hearted Woodsman, The Road Home, Ozma, and The Adult Who Tells Lies. From Bina, Punishing Bird, Big Bird, Judgment Bird, and Apocalypse Bird. From Hokma, we'd be looking at The Burrowing Heaven, Price of Silence, Blue Star, One Sin, Plague Doctor, and White Knight. And for the Keter, Bloodbath, Heart of Aspiration, Pinocchio, The Snow Queen, and Silent Girl. There's too many options to make an informed guess, realistically speaking. As much as the birds feel like the natural choice, once again, it feels like they would be a trio if only for Apocalypse Bird. If I had to point out personal favorites aside from said birds, it would be Silent Orchestra, Jester of Nihil, Mountain of Smiling Bodies, Warm-Hearted Woodsman, White Knight, and the Snow Queen. All of those would be very welcome to me, but realistically speaking, I pretty much like the entire sets of abnormalities featured in Ruina, so the entire canon set in LobCorp HQ. Anyhow, for my own personal guess, after all of that preamble, the thing that is inevitably going to stab me in the back, here you go. Welcome to the stage, the Kane office. Give me the Nemo face laser, thank you very much. Second and third place are inevitably the two fingers on offer. the index proxies, followed by the FUNT capos. Otherwise, as a fourth honorable mention, I'd be liable to pick the Red Mist. If none of these choices end up making it, well, I guess I'm adding Mistake to the counter. Oh, as for one last aside, if Kim Ji-hoon decides to go with a Distortion Detective one this time, I wouldn't be that surprised. Just rest in peace, Ruina fans, I guess. In that particular case, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave us Moses and Ezra alongside with one of the other Abnos. If this one does happen, I'll just read Distortion Detective on stream for you guys, I guess. Regardless, thanks for listening in to this second monitor slop content. Maybe I should do more of these if people just want to hear me yap from time to time. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, toss over a like, and if you want to see more in the future, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 5k, and I'll be releasing something for that milestone down the line. We're liable to hit that this month. You can support further like these fellas from the Patreon, Artie and Derp, or like these members, Ane and Iwa. For further announcements, I'm running a large-scale Project Moon tabletop roleplay in my server for the month of July. It is currently titled Feathered Attunement, and uses my own system Fixer's Urban Nightmare. It's taking place in H-Corp with the goal of retrieving artifacts from the ruins of old H-Corp via a dilapidated Lobotomy Corporation facility. Various officers and associations are to scope things out and work with one another to achieve major orders and solve a wide variety of puzzles while scavenging for ego gears and all manner of loot. If you're interested, join up on the Discord, and some fellas from the Jump Street office would be more than happy to onboard you. That said, thanks for listening in once again. Appreciate it.